Noel Manning Sr. appears to live a happy existence in his home at Cessnock in the Hunter Valley, but the death of his son Noel Jr. in Sydney 6 months ago has plagued him.
After speaking to people, like the Salvation Army officer that he spoke to the day before, he stated that Noel was not suicidal.
Official reports from the scene say Noel Jr. gassed himself in his car. He was 39 years old. After studying details of the incident, Noel Sr. believes he was killed, but he doesn't know who did it. 21 years before, his son shared a cell with Ivan Milat in Long Bay Jail. The two had intimate discussions over a string of murders. As we told you last night on our news, Noel Sr. says his son may have even taken part in the backpacker killings. Noel Jr. had a difficult relationship with his father, rarely seeing him. But in 1984, he gave him a surprise present. Noel Jr. may have been a vital witness in the Milat court case. He died just weeks before the trial began. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The Hunter region has it all, the city, beaches, mountains and wineries, but they haven't always worked together to promote themselves as a single concept. According to new tourism head David Simmons, that must change.
We'll get squashed in the crowd if we go it alone. The sort of quality campaigns that we want to do and the sort of exposure that we want to gain, then it's really almost impossible for individual parts of the Hunter to do it.
The Hunter has been steadily increasing its profile as a tourist destination. It recently picked up a record 11 prizes in the State Tourism Awards. But with the area attracting only 6.5% of the $7 billion spent annually on tourism in the state, there's still a long way to go. According to David Simmons, the area's proximity to Sydney and the 2000 Olympics means a lot of ground can be covered in the next few years.
We're only limited by our own sense of the future. We've got to look at really big picture stuff for this area.
The concept is to leak the news to the world on Australia's best kept secret.
You remember paid $3.90 and $1.80. It started the favourite with bookmakers. Number 1 Sequalo paid $1.60 and 11 Street Talk $2.80. The trifecta $96.30. Racing now in Sydney at Rosehill Gardens, where the 6th event was the Missile Stakes. Legal agent paid $8.70 and $2 even, $3.10 and $1.20 for Moss Rocket. The Quinella paid $69.30 and the trifecta $243.20. Now to race 7. The placings 7, 5 and 8, $18.90 and $4.50. The Quinella paid $53.30 and the trifecta a little more than $1,000. The night's battle is all uphill.
We must win the remainder of the games, the 4 games. If not, you can forget it and we can start planning for next season.
A loss in the Steel City clash deep in Newcastle's slump. Malcolm really concedes it's not looking good.
Yeah, there's a lot of defensive problems there, but I think the team just lack confidence, to be honest, and that's not such an easy thing to turn around.
Newcastle has 7 days to get the finals campaign back on track. In the remaining matches they play Parramatta, the Roosters, Reds and Sharks.
The only way you can get that confidence back into the side is from a success, and the sooner it happens the better. We are in a slump and we've got to dig our way out of it.
Searching for answers, the Knights boss admits everyone is under pressure, no more so the team's representative players.
And maybe things have come too quick for them, maybe things have arrived and they think we've made it, but you know, we've got to dig deep now, and times like this it really does find out what a player's character's like and how mentally tough he is.
The team to travel to Parramatta for the first of the do-or-die games will be named tomorrow.
4 from 4.
That would be nice.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
In New South Wales alone, workplace injuries and illness cost more than $600 million each year. But even more shocking are the deaths of men and women who are simply doing their jobs. At the BHP Steelworks in Newcastle, 4 people have been killed in the last 18 months. Industrial Relations Minister Jeff Shaw has been monitoring the situation.
Management has been cooperative. I've appreciated their efforts to upgrade safety. We've had to initiate a number of prosecutions, but it has been a matter of ongoing concern.
The Minister says he is pleased with the company's response to the problems. Mr Shaw was speaking in Newcastle on occupational health and safety issues. He has announced a Legislative Council Standing Committee inquiry into workplace safety. The committee will tour regional New South Wales.
I'll be touring the regions, including the Hunter, and I'll be looking at workplaces and hearing submissions from interested parties, employers, unions and other people who have a view. And I hope that they'll come up with some creative and positive ideas for workplace change.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Tasmanian author Victoria Hammond meets the North Wing, the imposing building which grabbed her attention on a recent fleeting visit to the city.
It was at dusk and I just saw this building outlined against the sky, this looming, and I just fell in love with the building. And I said, what a perfect building to set a Gothic story in, so that's what I'm going to do.
Locked up, boarded and barricaded since the 1989 earthquake, the old building stands alone, its once bustling corridors gathering gloom. Accompanied by hospital executives, Victoria was able to breathe in the sense of past glory and Gothic decay when she was allowed visit the building today. Victoria is one of a number of authors compiling short stories for a literary project called Novocastrian Tales.
So the story plays between the present and the future, and it's got a spooky ending, and that's all I'm telling you.
It's been 6 years since the major earthquake rocked Newcastle, killing 13 people and injuring scores of others. A series of booklets is an attempt to remind the city that it's not immune from more.
The aim is to prepare our community in things that we can do in the home, the workplace, or the office, should we have another earthquake strike.
They'll enable people to be prepared, which emergency services personnel say is the key to managing a future disaster.
It's important that the public know what's going to be expected of them if there's another major incident, such as an earthquake.
The booklets are the work of the Newcastle Emergency Management Committee, comprising council, major emergency organisations and industry representatives. They were developed in response to community demand and mark the beginning of a comprehensive public education campaign, a strategy which has already caught the eye of 2 disaster management representatives visiting from the UK. A mail-out to Newcastle ratepayers will begin next month.
It's about public safety, things that we can do to save serious injuries and even save lives.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
A stacker breakdown at the Kooragang coal terminal last month graphically illustrated the potential for coal truck traffic problems. It's at Carrington, though, that the snarls have really caused headaches. Port Waratah Coal Services responding today with a plan to bring the truck movements under control.
We're communicating much more effectively with the coal companies and the shippers to plan the coal receival so that we only get the amount of coal that we can actually take in a given day, so we don't get the truck queues.
The plan will see road coal to the Carrington terminal reduced to a maximum of 15,000 tonnes a day, a cut of 40%. Truck arrivals will be carefully planned to shorten queues, and improved traffic and parking strategies are being drawn up.
We believe with goodwill all round, we'll be able to find a solution which is acceptable to the community of Carrington and also to the coal industry.
The onus is now on the coal companies to make their dispatch arrangements fit the Port Waratah restrictions. That'll mean some will have to make at least a partial switch to rail.
The announcement comes after a leaked report hinted at job losses, the state opposition claiming 600 workers in the Hunter faced the axe. But the government has hit back.
No retrenchments, no sackings. Any reduction of overall staffing levels over time will come about through natural attrition and voluntary redundancy.
With national competition opening up between the power companies, Energy Australia has confirmed it is looking to become more efficient. As part of that, staffing levels must be under scrutiny.
Well, at this stage we haven't fixed on any number. Clearly, as an organisation, there's substantial potential for us to improve our performance.
Meanwhile, the company today gave details of its pure energy option. 50,000 consumers in the Hunter are being contacted to trial the use of solar, hydro and methane energy sources passed on through Energy Australia. It's a national first. Consumers asked to pay an additional $1 a week on their normal electricity bill for 25% of the pure energy, up to $5 extra for 100%.
It really does give people who want to save the planet the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is.
The Falcons are in fine spirits, the players keen to head south and take on the Tigers. It'll be tough on Gaze and Bradkey after the high of the Atlanta games, plus being away from their NBL team for such a break.
They haven't trained with their team for a month and a half. They'll probably have a bit of finding out to do again.
Last year it was a win apiece between the Falcons and the Tigers, the home court advantage the difference between the two sides. On form, Newcastle is the outsider, the Falcons on 8th and the Tigers 1st. Newcastle will have their hands full, not just with the stars like Gaze and Copeland. Butch Hayes says every one of the Tigers can bite.
I think the key though will be just to limit their lesser likes. It's when their lesser likes get 10 and 12 points, it's when they become a real dangerous team.
If these kids had their way, we'd be living in a clean, high-tech, energy-efficient world. Hundreds of primary and high school students have entered their environmentally friendly designs in the Hunter Energy Awards at Newcastle's Garden City Shopping Centre.
This here powers our windmill, which is run by the solar panel.
And what about this one?
This one here powers the lights, which is also powered by the solar panel.
Rutherford Primary School looked about its environment to come up with an idea for reducing wastage involved in carting coal.
So we thought we'd fill them up with recyclables and then drop them off at various plants, and then the non-recyclables would be dumped over levelled pits up at the open cut coal mines.
Some of the designers were content with a small step for mankind. Others, like the brains behind this solar-powered car, went for the giant leap approach. Now the most important thing, does it actually go?
Not yet, but it will.
But a couple realised a modest attempt sometimes gets the furthest. Petty, your solar car's a little bit more modest than Singleton High's, but it's got one thing up on it, doesn't it?
Yeah, mine actually goes, and it reaches at the moment 15 kilometres per hour.
And the winners were Rutherford Primary with its truck usage innovation and Irrawang High for its energy audit. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. Documents said to have been leaked from the Health Department show budget proposals to cut 6 Medicare offices across the region. In the federal seat of Hunter, 2 of the 3 offices may go.
This is one hell of a blow to my local community and many communities in the region. It means people just won't have decent access to Medicare services.
The plans have been branded by the Labor Party as blatantly political. It's claimed 44 of the 86 closures will be in the Labor state of New South Wales, but only 3 in Western Australia, where an election looms for the incumbent coalition. It's believed pharmacies may take on a role as Medicare agencies, a move welcomed by the local Pharmacists Association.
It would generate more jobs, and pharmacies are convenient.
Also feeling the effects of the national deficit is Skillshare. The number of programs in the Hunter Central Coast area will be reduced from 21 to 12. National Head of Skillshare David Thompson says the cuts will affect those in greatest need the most.
If the government doesn't put enough resources into assisting those at the bottom of the pile or the end of the queue, the only thing that's going to happen to them is they'll stay there.
He says the funding cuts to Skillshare in the Hunter are the largest anywhere in the country. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
The match against Amy Cup leaders Warringah, the number 1 sports ground, was never going to be easy for Newcastle, but the Wildfires did everything to cause an upset. Good spoiling tactics throughout the match restricted scoring opportunities, and at half-time the locals were in front by 11 points to 10. But the second half belonged to the Green Rats. First a penalty conversion, then 2 unanswered tries sealed the visitors' victory. In basketball, Melbourne has maintained its position on top of the NBL ladder, beating Newcastle last night. The Tigers won 98-93. The loss leaves Newcastle out of the top 8. The Newcastle International Hockey Centre is hosting the Regional Girls Championships this weekend. The under-14s and under-12s divisions attracting 15 teams from across the state. Locals fared well on day 1. The Newcastle under-14s team dominated its match against the Upper Hunter, Casey Cave's goal helping the home side to a 3-0 victory. And in the Women's State Softball League, the Castle Lakers have won their first game in today's big double-header, 2-1 over Wollongong. The side plays the ACT Academy tonight.
Executive Officer of the Hunter Dash for 2000 Task Force Vic Levi flew home from Atlanta this week, confident the Hunter will play its role in the 2000 Games. Armed with the Hunter Dash brochure, he's been mixing with Olympic officials in Atlanta, selling the Hunter as an Olympic training ground. And the hard work has paid off, with the US equestrian team manager arriving soon. Aside from making some important contacts, there's also been some good advice.
We were told by a number of sources not to rush in. Don't sign
countries, as soon as they approach and say, look, we'd like to use your facilities, we'd like to come and have a look at your accommodation, people told us, just stay calm and be cautious and just wait and see what happens.
It's also become apparent Newcastle University sports facilities will play a vital role in attracting overseas Olympic teams for training.
What we learnt there showed us definitely that our university in Newcastle will be crucial to our bid to attract teams to come here and train.
A full report from the Atlanta trip will be completed and distributed amongst Hunter Valley councils shortly. Residents of a nearby flat tried frantically to enter the burning unit around 3:30 this morning, but were overcome by smoke after kicking down the front door. Fire crews smashed their way into the flat and quickly extinguished the flames. Searching through the unit, firemen located a deceased man lying on the kitchen floor. Police say it's likely the fire began in the kitchen, a melted pot found on the top of an oven. The dead man's relatives have not been informed. Police are still investigating the exact cause of the fire. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
While the causes of postnatal depression are still not clear, experts talk about the need to recognise the stress that a baby causes. They're expected to bring instant joy, but the reality can be different, and this, says Jill Curry, coordinator of the new survey and research program, is often the key to the problem.
One of the biggest barriers, I think, for women is that they're not expecting to feel the sorts of feelings that they're feeling after childbirth. They're not expecting to feel ambivalent. They're not expecting to not enjoy their baby.
The condition can be worsened by a lack of social support. In growing areas such as the Central Coast, often there are no family and close friends to rely on.
Postnatal depression affects around 20% of women in the first 2 years after childbirth, but nearly half of all women will experience some kind of distress.
It can also affect other members of the family, even the wider community. Ms Curry will use the survey results to review local support services so that they more effectively meet the needs of new mothers. She also plans to generate greater public awareness of the problem.
I think I'd like to see a more responsive community. I think I'd like to see a community that was more aware of what it was like to have children at this time.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Since contracts were exchanged last month, the bulldozers are working on the foundations of the $15 million sports complex. The facility, funded by University Union sports fees and private money, incorporates a basketball hall, a gym and a $5 million indoor heated pool. And it's the Olympic pool which is hoped to attract overseas athletes training for the 2000 Games. The pool is the closest of its kind to Sydney and will boast the latest in aquatic technology, being ozone treated. Prior to the Games, 750 beds will also be available during semester breaks. The sports union is confident the combination will attract overseas athletes.
It's the period I would see when we could attract overseas teams. We'll have the weight training, we'll have aerobics areas, martial arts area. They're in separate rooms, and then we've got the swimming facility.
Beyond Sydney 2000, it's hoped the sports complex will also be used by the general public.
When we put in such a large facility with a total cost of in excess of $15 million, that we have to seek the use of the community to make ends meet, as it were.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
In the material we've actually got, we've got some of the point form here that we can just read out. We plan to have one of those.
The scope of the problem in south-western Sydney, of course, that doesn't apply to There's less formal rather than more. There are no rules and guidelines on the way the relationship is conducted, though the purpose is task-oriented.
The BHP-owned 510-hectare site stretches along the coast from an area known as the Belmont Lagoon to nearly as far as Redhead. BHP is proposing 250 hectares of the site to be used for housing with up to 2,500 dwellings. The rest would be set aside for public bushland and beachfront reserve. The Lake Council is moving carefully toward adopting a proposed development strategy inviting public input. A number of issues ranging from environmental, heritage and sustainable development are being considered.
The issue was such a major issue that they decided to allow the public to come in and sit in on the councillors' discussions about the whole project. And the workshop was designed, of course, to give all the councillors an opportunity to consider the whole scheme in total, and also now to give the public input.
Meanwhile, Council may be facing a date with the Land and Environment Court over another development application on the old Lambton Bee Colliery site at Redhead. FAI wants to get moving on the cleared 12-hectare site and another 130 home sites. The Council is waiting on the outcome of a soil contamination study of the site before proceeding.